God.
And that one on Center, 70 Center, Mike.
I got them too.
I think they moved out, because I saw a truck there, it was either Friday or Saturday.
That looks like it.
And I don't know if he had that up for sale. He wasn't making it up for sale.
Is that duplex?
It is, it's an up and a down. The lady that used to live
That's
there
cheap.
contacted me before she got out.
It's gonna be a quick meeting.
We're streaming, so don't say anything about anybody.
57 cool matches.
Looking nasty.
Never seen her like that.
Yeah.
There were some things.
It was just, yeah.
I got a picture, you see it.
Not for a warning on that. So, oh, I'd be embarrassed to put that out. You're so nasty.
Well, I mean, some things stop to surprise you.
That's every day anymore. It really is. It really is.
The way in which some people live.
It's just the questions we get every day. Well, you got the round going on. I'm gonna bring some gas cans in. I want to dump the gas out. They can't do that. I says, you can't. I have no place you can dump that gas. Never mind. Well, now we'll go down to catch basin. Yeah, right. Take an Oakwood dump.
Despite what I've accomplished here, I'm not the smartest guy sometimes. And I tried to, I wanted to get some old gas out of the weed eater. And I tried to dump it on a fire pit real quick. It came chasing me.
So obviously you're not a fireman.
No. No. Luckily I didn't have to stop, drop, and roll. It seemed like a great idea at the time. It absolutely did.
You put it out before you let the fire here.
That's like,
Unless it's too much.
Well, yeah, then you're gonna get your eyebrows burned off.
you know, dumb stuff. Trying to do stuff too fast all the time is always my downfall.
Sean, what's up,
I
buddy?
remember,
Write this
I
down.
was on nights,
I don't know.
I'm outside, there's
Rose,
some chicken on the grill.
Hi, how are you?
Glendale.
I'm looking
How you
at
doing?
it.
How are you?
No one's home. Mower, I'm gonna throw that out.
I'm always good.
Got one foot on the ladder.
Trying.
There's the
All
hardest
good.
part.
Frankly, yeah, yeah. How are you, man? Good.
Nothing to do. No crazy. Hey, hey, hey. No, ain't no crazy.
Today's good to go to the. You can sit next to me.
Two chairs.
Go down. No.
But you have another grant?
Yeah, my daughter has a baby. How are you, Mayor?
How are you?
How are you? Good, thank you.
Jeff?
Pop's chairs.
Hold it down.
Yeah, you got by yourself?
Yeah, God is, the election not
Touch
to
screen.
So
You didn't.
I worked out meals this morning.
They're probably not very good.
Last for a week and a half. And
I feel good, say, you know,
this last, I finally got her.
Said something about that. Thanks for the third reminder. Well, good thing I'll be sitting behind the thing.
Oh, my God. I guess what?
Now the accessories are on.
So whatever.
Probably will take a little while.
Oh, it's a tough spot. No doubt about it.
Only happens when you need it, like. You'll be all right.
Oh my God, how'd I miss you guys?
Last check was there.
It's 70 out, right?
How are you?
Watch I sit down. He doesn't want to blood.
Hey, Michael.
I saw it.
I'm just a
Georgette. I'm sorry, I didn't see you here. That's all right. How are you? I did. How are you? You get up and you can't complain.
I didn't know she knew they changed it.
Oh, sit here then.
Because we see guys. Yeah, well, sometimes you get, well, you know why it's a nice thing. So damn high, it is. Get a first pass. Comes over with the ruler.
I'll sit here then.
You do the filling in the same.
Well, I don't see anybody else walking in, so, we can probably get going. Michael, you ready? I don't see anybody else out there, so. It's like, it's too nice a night to be sitting inside a building. We haven't had enough of those, and this is when they get out. Well, I want to welcome you all coming for the ward meeting for wards 3 and 4. And I think most of you have been here before. I see some new faces, and I'm Mayor Stan Cochi, in case somebody doesn't know. And just, well, again, I want to welcome you. Our game plan is I will ask the two council people to say a couple words to get things going. Our city manager, Mike Malice, will give a short presentation of what's happening around town. And then the important part, we'll get into question and answer from all you guys, because that's why we're here. We're here to hear from you, and we have all these department heads to ask questions of. So that's why they're here. Keep it informal, and that's the way we like to do it. And I think with that, well, I want to get going, because it's not about me tonight. It's about our council people. So Vic Fluharty, Ward 3, if you want a couple of words to start off with.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. Wards 3 and 5 tonight. Or 4, I'm sorry. Ward 4. Little things that have been going on in Ward 3 is that we got now 2 new factories over in the Tinker's Creek Commerce. Cleveland Tank Company and Lake Shore moved over from Willow Street. So we now have 2 beautiful new warehouses over there. If you ever get near there across from Shawnee Golf Course, beautiful, beautiful, huge warehouses. It's really taken up the space that's been there when I first got here. Believe me, it was nothing but empty fields. So we're getting some movement and some more people working here in the town with some tax money and everything else. Most of the streets, the bridge is done, Northfield, thank God. And of course, Ford was done, Broadway was done. If I can get Mike Malice to fix part of Northfield Road, would be all right. By Forbes Road there to the bridge before I retire. So, I don't know where Mike is. He must have left.
He's right here.
Oh, that's
He's listening.
I've been praying to get that damn thing done for about 8 years, so hopefully we can finally someday get it done. But also down by the old Padala foot doctor place, podiatrist there, we now own that, and we're going to turn that into a nice green space with a little garden and some bushes and everything else. It'll be a nice little, as you drive down the hill, you'll see something there that'll look real nice. And Mike will explain more about what's going on the square there, behind the square. I'll let him do all that. As far as we're getting speed bumps put in next week or week after, somewhere in that area. 1 speed bump to start off. We got to start slowing down some of this speeding in the neighborhood, and it's not just Ward 3. It's every ward. It's every part of the city of Cleveland, probably Ohio. But we're going to start that way. We're putting up a couple speed bumps, and they'll slow them down in some bad traffic areas, hopefully. Of course, then they'll go somewhere else and do it, but at least that'll knock them down for a little bit. That's the next thing that needs to be going up. And then, like I said, the speeding has been a big deal. And Chief Mike's here, and he's heard it from us a few times. In fact, we're trying to get one guy, and he's flying around in a gray Challenger, and I mean, he goes about 90 down the streets, and we're going to catch him sooner or later. But it's sad that we got people that are doing that when kids are out walking around. It's just not safe. If you want to do something like that, go somewhere way away in the country. But that's what we got to deal with, just people just not paying attention and doing the right things. And as a neighborhood, we need to start always keeping an eye on each other. And if you got a problem, somebody's causing anything, you know, if it's a legal thing, you call the police. If it's something I can help you with, call me, and we'll get it taken care of. We'll at least start checking on it. I'm trying to think here, what else I got going on in the neighborhood? I think that's it, so I'm gonna turn it over then to Mr. Smith here, Councilman Ward 5.
I know he did. I'm glad you're retiring.
Now, let me say it's Ward 4, Frank Smith Jr.
They keep changing these wards on me, I don't know.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Frank E. Smith Jr., and I am the councilman for Ward 4. There's just a few things that I'd like to mention to everyone. First being Glendale School. We had a meeting about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I asked a question, what are we going to do with Glendale? Originally, I think Glendale was supposed to come down with this new school campus thing, but now they don't know what they're going to do. So we don't know if they're going to close it, tear it down, or if they're going to leave it and use it for whatever. Preschool, I don't know what else they might use it for, but that's what that, if you don't see it gone and it's still open, that's what they're going to do. But it was originally planned, or they had in their plans to actually take it down. Speaking of Glendale, Glendale Road from Broadway all the way to Satin Circle is terrible. Okay, we know that. We're trying to address it. Give us some time. We don't know, what's going to happen at this point. Road projects are very, very costly. We used to do maybe 2 or 3 roads, but now we're going to do 1 with the money. So, and you see what the economy is right now. So, hopefully that will get done. And as I said, from Broadway to Satin Circle. On May 6th, we're having a job fair at the high school for juniors and seniors. We don't want to see these children walking around in the community this summer not doing anything. So the different municipalities, the municipalities that make up the consortium for the school, we all, Oakwood, Bedford Heights, Bedford, Walter Hills, we all got together, the council people, and said, let's do something for the children in the community. Let's get them to work this summer. I know the city of Bedford has plenty of jobs for youth. Last year I stressed it, please, please apply. If you know some children need a job, tell them to come and apply. They don't get a job here in Bedford, maybe in Oakwood, maybe in Bedford Heights, but we want them to work. Less children on the street means less problems for our safety forces. Grass. Grass cutting season is coming up. We do not want to be in the grass cutting business. The city does not. People won't cut their grass, and then they see that $200 bill come in the mail or tacked onto their water bill, then they're like, why? Why did you do this? Because you have not cut your grass. You have to cut your grass. Your neighbors don't want to see. They cut their grass, they want you to cut yours also. As I said, my name is Frank Smith. If you don't know me, you need to talk to me. My cards are right here. You can grab a card on your way out. Give me a call. I will get back to you expediently. I mean, because I don't like, I like to get back to people. I want to make you feel comfortable in your home, in our city. Thank you.
All right, before I move on with the program, I want to thank our councilman from Ward 1 and our Vice Mayor, Sandy Spinks, for being here, and Ward 5, Jeff Asbury. I think you're the only 2. And our Clerk of Council, Tracy Simons, so if you call into the council office, this is who you get to talk to. You don't have to talk to me, you get to talk to her. Much more pleasant. And anyhow, thanks for being here, and Mike will introduce the administration when he gets up here. And with that, we will bring up Mike for a presentation. Mike Mellis.
I'm going to stand off to the side just a little bit here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming this evening, and those watching at home. I will try to be quick. We're going to talk about some of the things that we've been working on, where we're going, some other large-scale projects, and obviously addressing any concerns that anyone here may have, maybe in this presentation. If not, that's what we're here for, so feel free to ask us any questions. Before we get started, I want to introduce our department heads. One of the things that it's a privilege to see and have an opportunity to work with not only all of them, but all of the staff that we have and all of the staff underneath each and every one of them. Our employees, they really care about the city. And you know, I know you may, oh, that's just what he's going to say standing up here, but it's the truth. I mean, some of the things that we get done are significant. You look around us, neighboring communities, inner ring suburbs of Cleveland, some of the things that we've been able to accomplish aren't being accomplished in other areas. We are an extremely lean operation. We are not heavy on staffing. A lot of our staff is cross-trained. They can pick up the, if someone's gone, we can still carry the load and get things done. And it's, I have to give credit to each and every one of them. Real quickly, I just want to introduce our staff. We have at our Recreation Department, Parks Department, our Assistant Director, Bob Plisky. Our Director, Mike Callahan, has another engagement this evening. Our Finance Director, Jennifer Holland. Our Police Chief, Mike Stask. Our Assistant Fire Chief, Tim Grody. I almost said the past one. Tim Grody, our assistant, I'm sorry. You gave me the eyes and you threw me off there, Tim. Tim has been with us for a very, very long time. He does a great job. Our Service Director, Clint Beller. Our Superintendent of Public Works, sitting off to the side, is Sean Francis, and Jennifer Kuzma in our Economic Development Department, and she also serves as the Executive Director of the First Suburbs Consortium and Development Council. And that is a conglomerate of municipalities in the inner ring of Northeast Ohio. I do want to point out one thing, and I have to give credit to both of our safety forces. We had a significant change over the last, I'd say, 6 months. We've transitioned. We have obviously a new chief, Chief Stask. We also have a new chief in our fire department, Chief Harding, and obviously Assistant Chief Grody. We're also going to be promoting a new assistant chief in the police department, which will take place later this summer. All three of these individuals have really just hit the ground running. They're doing a tremendous job. The city is in great hands as far as public safety, and we'll touch on some of those things as we get into the presentation. Real quickly, 2024, you can see where we concluded. Our cash balance is over $4 million. That is on top of the $5.8 million that we have as our reserve. Those numbers, even with a lot of the transition that we're seeing, the transition with University Hospitals, the transition with Zelia selling to HICMA, and short-term dropping employment, these numbers are higher than they were in 2023. And again, that's a testament to the individuals behind me watching the budget. The city has received our 35th consecutive award for government financing. That doesn't happen on accident. I think the administration, and I have to give credit to City Council, you know, there's a track record there. It's a proven track record of being fiscally responsible with the public's money. And we're going to continue to do that. Where there's an opportunity for us to make changes for the better, changes to be more efficient, and if it costs, if there's savings there, we're going to do that. I use one quick example, and it was a real hot topic. Years ago, we were looking at getting rid of our senior transportation. We had a bus service in town. That bus service cost us, on average, with employee, the vehicle, gas, mileage, all that, it was about anywhere from $70,000 to $85,000 a year. We transitioned to an outside service. Our radius is further, and it's costing us about $25,000 a year. So it is a better service, what we believe, and it's saving the city about $60,000. I have to thank City Council for trusting the administration in that recommendation. It was a hot topic. People didn't want us to get rid of that. I understand why. But we don't make decisions like that lightly. We think about it. We look at what we can do. Can we do better? And can we be more efficient? And that's one example. Real quickly, for those of you that attended our town hall meeting regarding the University Hospital site, this is an overview. This is our big news that we've been working on. You can see a timeline here. Everyone knows the hospital closed in 2022. City filed litigation shortly after that. There was a significant amount of vandalism that took place in the hospital building. You can see that in this highlighted overhead map behind me. The area in blue was the area that was damaged with what we call the flood. Millions and millions of dollars in damages. The red highlighted portion is University Hospital, that is the medical office building. And University Hospital is going to maintain a presence there. They're going to stay there. They're going to provide, doctors will be there. They'll provide lab work and some services to the public. You'll see in the estimated transfer date, May of 2025. We are right on schedule with that. As everyone knows, we settled this litigation in January. The city will take ownership of this site, most likely May 1st. At the latest, it'll be about May 15th. When I say take over, we're going to take all of what you see highlighted in green, as well as the blue. We will also own the red, but University Hospital is going to stay in that location and provide the services. The big thing here is there's 0 deed restrictions on that property. Okay, that's one of the primary reasons we filed litigation. University Hospital was attempting to sell this. They were not going to let another healthcare institution go there or buy it. It is why we pushed. And while the perfect outcome would have been them just turning around and reopening that, which wasn't going to happen, I think this is the next best outcome. We have control. We have site control. There's no restrictions. They're going to pay the city $2.1 million that we will have in a separate fund for economic development and redevelopment of the site. And now we can go out there and try to make something happen and attract either another health institution or another type of business to the site. I will say the centerpiece, the blue, as well as the original hospital building, the city has a pending grant application with the state of Ohio for $2.5 million, and that is for demolition funds. So in the event that we have to take this down, we intend to use the state's money and not our own money. So we're really trying to plan multiple options. We want to have as many options as we can. You'll see in March, we released a request for proposals. We personally sent that to hundreds of businesses, healthcare institutions, developers. This document, the request for proposals, is to see what interest there is in that site. All of the electronic documents, all of the environmental documents, zoning, everything is listed on a landing page on the city's website, so anybody can go on there and take a look at it. I will say the majority of the questions we're getting back from some of those parties are, does the city have money to tear it down? They don't want to use their own money, right, if they're going to make a proposal. So we're letting them know we have a pending grant application. Maybe we will get some promising proposals. I think there's one out there that will be very promising. But if not, then we'll see how things go. Maybe we will have to tear that down and then reissue it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think we are positioned ourselves to where we can control it. And we can put something there that fits our town, fits the neighborhood, but also contributes to the tax base. You know, someone had asked at the last meeting, well, how big of a building can they put there? I go, to be honest with you, if University Hospital sold all the land on Columbus Road, and they sold it to someone to put an apartment building there, 4 stories, there's nothing the city could do about it. It would be zoned for that. So we took action to try to control this site. And I, again, thank council and the administration that was involved in that. I think it was the first step, our first hurdle. So now we'll work to try to redevelop that space. Looking at some of the other news that we have, Councilman Flu already mentioned, Tinkers Creek Commerce Park. 2 great businesses that moved in there. They also have a total, I think we are just over 200 employees. They are growing significantly, especially Lakeshore Electric. I will also mention that Jen has spoken to a company that has purchased the former Lakeshore Electric site, that building which is on Willis. So that is going to be occupied with another business. So things are progressing. We do have there's 2 small parcels remaining in that park, and we'll be working to market that and try to find another business to move in. Our fire department, we have some fleet upgrades that everybody's aware of. We have our ladder truck that has been ordered, thankfully due to a grant application that staff were successful in obtaining. That was over about $1 million grant application. But one of the other things that we're doing, and we're kind of changing paths this year, in speaking with Assistant Chief and Chief Harding, we're going to reallocate funds that are already budgeted for a different project and look to present a proposal to City Council to purchase another new squad. Obviously, with transporting and further, it's putting more miles on our vehicles, and obviously there's a need for that. So we'll be making a proposal to Council later this year, and I'm hopeful that they'll support that proposal. I'd also like to mention, we talk about our leadership in the safety forces hitting the ground running. Chief Harding is coordinated. The Office of Emergency Management was looking at a location on the east side to conduct a training exercise for rail lines, cars that have off-rail in the catastrophe that we had seen. God, it's been over a year ago. East Palestine, the train derailment. Through their communication, they spoke with the Office of Emergency Management, and that training exercise is actually going to be taking place here in Bedford. Not only is our fire department going to be actively involved in that, but our police department as well as our service department as well. Our police department, we're increasing our security cameras. We have those throughout the Auto Mile, throughout the Historic District, on the Commons, at our municipal pool, all of those locations. Bob Plisky at our Parks and Recreation Department has been instrumental in that. It's state-of-the-art technology that we're going to rely on, directly fed to our police department, and sometimes that is being proactive instead of reactive. So we're continuing to work to expand that. Also like to share, it was last Monday, I believe, our traffic unit. Chief Staff has worked, our staffing is at a level where max level. Years ago, we used to have a traffic detail specific to those quality of life issues, and we've re-implemented that, and that rolled out last Monday. We know those high target roads, the cut-through streets, the high speeding streets, so we're going to be targeting those. There'll be some data here that I'll talk about a little bit later to touch on. Our Parks and Recreation Department, we have a number of different facility upgrades, not only at the Ellenwood Community Center, but also at some of our pocket parks. We're going to be replacing the playground structure at Taft Park this year, and that was through a grant application. And then we'll also be doing some prep work in anticipation of replacing the structure at Greencroft Park in 2026. You see some of these large infrastructure projects, the Union Street Bridge, that's underway this year. They are putting in, what you see now is the temporary utility bridge. That will be conducted by, I believe, June is the date. They should have that completed. The road will remain open until then. After that, they're going to work on just removing the existing bridge and building the new one. The road, Union Street will be closed from Taylor to Hawthorne during that period of time. And just, don't be the bearer of bad news here, but I don't see that taking no less than 1 year. I think that's going to be closed probably 15 to 18 months. We'll share that information. It is not a city project, it's a state project, but we will share that as we get more information. Northfield Road, Councilman, while it's not confirmed, we do know that the state is tentatively talking about 2028, 2029. I would say that we are not in a position to have that any sooner. And this is why. We are responsible for a portion of that project, just like Broadway. When the state came to us to resurface Broadway, they want you to pay 20%. You can negotiate the best you can. We were able to get Broadway down to 15%, but that still cost the city almost $2 million. Northfield is longer, and it's going to be more expensive. So we need to really get ahead of this and budget accordingly and look at, if this is indeed going to take place in 2028, we need to make sure that we're in a position to properly fund our portion. And as Councilman Smith mentioned with our road program, he's right. Not only is it cost more money for the roads, but those roads don't last nearly as long as they used to. You used to get 20, 25 years out of a road. You do not get 20, 25 years out of a roadway. You know, our $450,000 that we budget every year, we used to be able to do 4 or 5 streets. You know, it's a stretch to get 2. Mr. Beller and Mr. Francis conducted our survey this year. They went out, they walked every single street. They've shared that data with our engineer. We have a very detailed rating system as far as what are the worst of the worst. And we're going to focus on the worst of the worst. And we'll be presenting that to City Council in hopefully the coming weeks on a proposal to go out to bid to do those streets this year. One of the things that you often hear me talk about is grant awards. We've brought in a significant amount of money. You can see Ellenwood Center improvements. We're replacing the roof at that facility on the gymnasium. We're also resurfacing both parking lots. That is being funded through a grant from Cuyahoga County. The playground structure at Taft Park is being funded through a grant through Game Time. You see some of these other large grants, the Healthy Aging Grant through the county, the CSSP grant, all of those fund programs at our community center. And our Assistant Director Plisky and our Director Mike Callahan, and I have to name all of our staff. Mary, those of you that know Mary, Sarah, they're just killing it. I mean, they're doing a tremendous job. And if you're not aware of any of that, man, pay attention, because there's opportunities for everybody. Youth all the way up to seniors. Look in that booklet. I know sometimes you get something in the mail and you're like, I'm not reading that. You're missing out. Look at that booklet. There's a lot of activities going on. And I know we have members here that often volunteer with our youth activities, our special events. Thank you. I think there was we had a mother-daughter or mother-son glow dance Friday night, Easter egg event on Saturday. It's great to see. And they're doing a great job. A lot of this is funded and or reimbursed through these grant programs. So we're going to keep going after those. Our planning grant, you can see here, this is to update our master plan. We actually held a kickoff meeting today with county planning. County planning, Jennifer put in for this grant to update our, as it says, citywide master plan, but also focus on a lot of these parcels and properties that the city has been acquiring through either tax foreclosure or other means. They had mentioned one of the statements they said today. It is one of the main reasons why they selected our program, or our application to be funded. They said far too often cities allow developers and businesses to do their planning for them when they buy properties. Bedford and some other more progressive communities, they do the planning and acquire. And they were very intrigued by the strategic acquisition of some of those pieces of property along Taylor and Willis. They're intrigued by the partnership with the Metro Parks and the Metro Parks plan that they have provided to the county planning for Viaduct Park. So they were very excited about that. I think they mentioned there were 10 or 11 total projects. They only funded 4. We were one of the 4. So there'll be some public meetings about that. We welcome the input, share the input, and we'll move on. You can see some of these other grants. And not only the awards there, you can see we have over $3 million in pending grants. So we go after as much as possible. We're not always successful, but I've always said if we could spend other people's money before ours, that's what we're going to try to do. You know, our quality of life, our building department, we are actively addressing exterior maintenance issues. I know grass was mentioned. If there's an issue and you're aware of something at a property, let us know. We can't be everywhere all at once. We'll go out, we'll inspect that, and we'll address it as properly as we can. I will say that there's oftentimes, oh, my neighbor's got stuff in the backyard. The city cannot enter property. So we're not able to do that. We can only visually from the sidewalk. But call us, let us know if you have a concern. Also, quality of life is the speeding, right? The running stop signs. I have to give credit to Chief Stask and all of our men and women in our police department. You can see some data here that we have. And it's from the 4th quarter of the last 2 years. So you see the 4th quarter in 2023, the amount of citations that were issued in comparison to the 4th quarter of 2024. 152 to 212. Traffic stops. Almost 200 more traffic stops in the 4th quarter of 2024 from the 4th quarter of 2023. But the other glaring thing is we hear that, oh, my neighbor parks on the street 24 hours a day, or they're parking on their lawn, or they're parking on the apron. Look at the parking citations. In the 4th quarter of 2023, we issued 133. The 4th quarter of last year, we issued 407. Do we get them all? We don't. Let us know if a car's been on your street, or if there's a concern. We'll look into that. I will also say, maybe there's an issue. Maybe the car is broken down and we're working. We will work with the public. There's times where neighbors have relatives in from out of town. We acknowledge that, and they're given permission. But it's not that our safety forces, our police, our men and women are not out there working to address these quality of life issues. I think the data shows otherwise, and we'll continue to work on addressing those. Speed tables were brought up. City Council approved the purchase of these last year. We have strategically identified 5. There's 5 streets listed here. There's going to be a 6th street also included. Willard, Paul, Archer, Grand, and West Glendale. These are your cut-through streets, your streets that we often see, the long stretches before stop signs. A lot of this was from data that our police department has obtained. We've also, Chief Stask met with his department and identified specific locations on those streets. So those are going to be provided to the service department, and those will get put up later this spring. They are not movable. Once they're going, we're leaving them in those locations. Part of the reason is you don't want to keep moving those. You're drilling holes into the roadway. In the winter, that's going to get water in there. You're going to start buckling, so we don't want to do that. We're following what other communities have done. There's been communities, Lakewood, Cleveland. We read Cleveland's study on this. They did a pilot program. There's a lot of pros to it. There are some cons, but these are the areas that I believe that it will have the most impact, and they'll be going in the spring. You can see some of these grants. This is our park, that was funded through a grant. This is Taft. We will also have a rendering for the Greencroft site later this year. There's a lot more earthwork that has to take place at the Greencroft location. The Taft one, not as much, is why we're gonna work to replace this one this year, and Greencroft will be prepped for replacement in '26. And then we're gonna move on from park to park. I think for a long time, we weren't budgeting annually for this, and appreciate council's support of earmarking some dollars that allowed us to go after matching grants, and now we're reimagining these spaces. You know, the Auto Mile continues to have improvements there. The work that the city just concluded at Bartlett and Rockside, that paved the way for the new J Honda store. That is going to be constructed at that location, at the entryway to Bedford. They intend to put shovels in the ground this year. What's more exciting is we have 2 other dealerships that are right now considering large-scale rebranding. And for those of you that don't know, dealerships are required by the manufacturer to rebrand every so many years. And solidifies their presence in Bedford. There's construction dollars that come into town for that. Property values for their dealerships go up, and there's a benefit to that as well. So they continue to do, Auto Mile continues to be a huge partner. This is the Transportation for Livable Communities initiative. For those of you that were involved with these public meetings, this was a planning grant we had through NOACA. A lot of it is to create connections with assets in town. For instance, municipal center, the community center, the pool, the library, the historic district, the commons, Viaduct Park, the Metro Parks. We did a study working with them, working with a consultant. We had a lot of good feedback from the public, and we outlined a plan, a connectivity plan. Phase 1 is basically connecting the parks, Viaduct Park to Bedford Commons, and then we will work back from there. We have a $500,000 grant application that's been submitted to the state of Ohio for that first phase, and that will create a pedestrian, bike, and hike trail down Willis into Viaduct Park. We'll ultimately want to connect all the other assets. There was a stat that, and I'm going to mess this up, but it's very eye-opening. The amount of visitors that go through the Bedford Reservation, it's like millions.
100, yeah.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable amount. If we could bring 10 of those visitors into town to spend $10, that's generating so much more money for our small businesses in the historic district every single year. And there's so many people that take that trail and they cross right over Union, down Hawthorne Parkway, over to Richmond. And we want to bring them into our downtown. And this is one of the initiatives that has been supported by the county. Our grant application, which was very exciting, the support was from county executive, county planning, NOACA, major public entities wrote on our behalf to the state of Ohio to support this funding. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on that project. Our commons, we broke ground on this a few weeks ago. I think everybody's familiar with this. This is the rear side of the train depot. As everyone sees, there'll be a water feature there, an additional pavilion, seating, swings, an expansion of the public park. When the commons was deeded to the city decades and decades ago, the one restriction was it had to remains a public space for not only Bedford, but everyone around. And we looked at this, we were able to get a large grant for it, and we're very excited to make it happen. I talk about things that are happening in town that you may not see happening in other locations. This is it's reimagining the space, right? We're doing new things, and we're excited about it. You see some of these renderings, seating area. It'll allow for additional events. We're excited about it, as everybody else should. 2025, and we're going to continue to talk about the partnerships with, if it's Land Bank, if it's the Metro Parks, Viaduct Park. One thing I'll talk about the land bank real quickly is they have over the years provided a lot of money to the city in demolition funds. Jen was actually just recently able to secure $45,000 grant to tear down the property at 97 Northfield. 97 Northfield, for those of you that, very poor condition, the large brick building, the old veterinary clinic from years and years ago. It was abandoned. The city did not own it. I think at the time it went to tax foreclosure, it was about $110,000 they owed. No one was gonna buy that. Ultimately, it came to the city, and the intent is with the city owning it, we can then take it down. And we didn't want to do that right away because early quotes are coming in at like $60,000 to take it down. The land bank and Jen they were able to secure funds up to $45,000 to take that down. So our fingers crossed that'll come down this year, and it'll be space that we're not going to hold that property. We'll most likely make that available to someone that wants to buy it, and either construct a new commercial building or something else on Moorfield Road. So we talk about these partnerships, they're a big, big thing. The last thing on here real quickly, wastewater treatment plant. For those of you that haven't been following, we've been talking about this for probably going on 3 years. We have a permit renewal that is going to be coming up. The Ohio EPA has required us a few years ago to go through a no feasible alternative study. In short, I'm going to layman's terms here, they want us to spend almost $300 million in a short period of time. The only way to do that is to basically take rates and put them through the roof. And that's not feasible. That's how we view it, right? They're viewing it, there's a significant amount of infiltration that enters into our the sanitary that makes its way to the plant. We know that. Heavy rains causes bypasses. Well, the majority of infiltration comes from lateral lines. Sure, there's infiltration from municipal lines in the roadways, but one, it's not feasible to replace every public sewer. It's not feasible for us to make everybody replace their lateral lines. So what we're doing is we came up with a number of different alternatives. Alternatives for improvements at the plant, alternatives, they want us to have projects done within 10 years, and we want to say, well, give us 40 years. Some of that is negotiating, but we're working through that. We intend to present our plan to City Council later this month, and ultimately the Ohio EPA by the end of April as well. I think we'll get to where we need to get to, but again, it's negotiating. It's something we've been talking about it for years. I will say though, it's very important that we come to an amicable agreement with the Ohio EPA. We would rather not have to deal with the federal EPA. So, the only other thing that I want to touch on, two small pieces. One, the city did make a formal request for, and actually, Councilman and I, years ago, we didn't even realize we didn't own this property, but for those of you that know Cosgrove Park, the former Interstate Park, familiar, that used to be tennis courts back there. So that, and tennis courts were removed. We've always maintained that space. We don't own that space. Bedford City School District owns that space. We did for us to reimagine that park or ball field or to do something else, what that is, we don't know. We really can't do it when we don't own it. So we did make a formal request last year to the schools to donate that property to the city. I think they're open to it. Their decision has not been made. But if it is donated to us and we take ownership of it, we will, obviously we'll share, some ideas and we can talk through that. But we did make that formal request. The other thing that I want to mention, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on here, but is anybody familiar with, it's not coming up. Is anybody familiar with the Vincentian Pathways project? Couple? Okay. If not, please take a look at it. It is an unbelievable project. and that is up at behind Light of Hearts, by the old convent, if you would say. I've been here, Stations of the Cross back there. The sisters, and there's an organization, nonprofit, they're working to restore all that, walkways, mini amphitheater. They're going after funding. They've already received a significant grant. They held a meeting a couple weeks ago at Light of Hearts that I attended, and it really was blown away by their renderings. And I'm sorry that this doesn't come up. They have a website, and we will put it out on our social media, but it's vincentianpathways.org. Take a look at it. They have renderings. I have to give them, you know, all the credit. They talked about this 10 years ago, and you know, they've created the committee, they've created the organization, they're going after funding. It would be a huge plus for this community. So take a look at it. That was my last plug for them. Pass it back over to the mayor, and we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. And now we'll open it up to you guys to speak and ask questions, comments. We'll take your criticisms. We'll also take your compliments. What I'd like to do is give everybody opportunity to ask a question, so one question at a time. And if we have time, then we'll go back and you can ask the second or third or fourth question. So we can open up. Somebody has a question or comment?
Yeah, I imagine the post office is in charge of their property, but like the potholes going into the post office, and then the pillars that hold up the entryway, it's like rusted and chipping, and it's a mess.
So I can tell you that, and I have to give credit, my administrative assistant, I think, has called the post office every single week. We're now beyond a month. Where it initially started, they had removed the mailbox out front here because it was damaged, it wouldn't open. And it was supposed to be back the following week. And I think that was in November? Yeah, it was November. They never returned it. And it's the reason why our flag, the flag retirement box that was outside, it's now in the lobby, because residents were filling that up with their mail, with their Christmas cards, with their electric bill, with everything else you could think of. We did, for the record, mailed all that stuff. But our frustration level was, you know, I'm going to be, you know, nothing that I'm saying tonight, haven't shared with them. Our building department's been out there. We've been told that they have work orders for it. Our last communication, I believe last week, we've expedited it above the local branch and are now taking the matters to that level. I can assure you the parking lot, they claim there were work orders. I don't know if I buy it, but those are the concerns we brought up. The trellis in the front, the chipping, the green trellis, that's been brought up. The mailbox that's missing here. So we are trying to address those issues.
Another hand, yes.
I was just wondering, the San Bernardo area there, that property, do they own that hill that goes from, you know, their property is here and then it comes down towards Broadway? Or is that city property?
I believe that's theirs.
Well, there's trees that have one, and probably our city workers took care of it. And at one point, there was a storm, and this was after the tornado. A couple trees came down, and part of one of the trees was in the roadway. So I'm sure that our service department, you know, moved that out of the roadway and the sidewalk, but now there's a big tree just coming, more than one big tree, just coming down the hill. And to be honest, if you drive past that property, it looks horrible. I mean, yeah, they cut the grass, but they don't do anything else.
Yeah.
And that really is an eyesore, and it's not safe either.
Yeah. take a look at it. That's why we have our department heads here, they can hear it, and they will certainly address it, I know that. What else? Yes.
In the city of Bedford Good Neighbor Policy, it says that you should call and talk to your neighbor before you complain. Well, the city of Bedford is my next door neighbor. And I called Sean after the hurricane to say that that section is now unsafe. I can't walk through it. There are branches hanging. Thank God our house was not hit. But I don't see why you can't not cut everything down, just clean up and make a pathway so that the people and the kids in the neighborhood could use that property.
Yeah, where's that exactly?
It's on the end of Sandy Circle, and it's just a small area surrounded by ravines. And as I said, thank God when the tornado came through, many trees fell. And I'm not saying clean up the trees, but you should be able to clean up enough that we can use that property. You know, I cannot walk like I used to. And I have been there, 58 years? And there have been times when trees have come down and the city has taken care of them. But it definitely upsets me, and the fact that, you're supposed to call and talk to your neighbor, and you are my neighbor. And he very firmly told me that the Metro Parks does not clean up, why shouldn't you?
We're not gonna clear paths, like walking paths. It's not a dedicated area for walking paths, so.
But it could be.
Well, it could be, you're right, but right now, we're not looking to install walking paths in all that property. I think that, if a tree comes down,
Well, the tree came down, took many trees down.
Sure,
There are
right.
branches hanging, dead branches from trees. That's not safe. And are you saying I should not go into my side yard?
well, I don't know, I mean, if you're referencing that property, that's actually the cities and the Metro Parks, that wouldn't be your property.
No.
But, I'm just saying,
It's my
can't, I understand what you're saying, I'm not saying you can't, go out into the woods, but we can't go, the Metro Parks and the city has wooded property all over, we can't go and make dedicated paths for everyone, unfortunately, we can't do that.
Stop the dedicated path, just clean up the damage that's hanging. Aren't those called widow makers or whatever, when a dead branch falls? And when I tell you that the tree that came down had to be 150 years old. So of course it took many other things down, bent them, it just is not safe. And I'd appreciate it if you would look at it again. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll have it on their list and take
Okay.
a look. Yes.
On Green Cliff Drive, there's a hole that, I don't know if it's a sinkhole, small hole, that's been looked at, and there've been cones there for quite a while. Has it been determined what caused that, and is there a repair going to be made?
There will be a repair, I believe it was sanitary?
No, it's actually a storm line that is allowing the earth to get into it and take it to the next manhole pipe. Right now, it is a work order, but we have other sinkholes that we are addressing right now. It is going to be addressed.
Okay.
I just don't have a time frame at this time.
Excuse me. Oh, next, and then.
What is Nature Stone building gonna be used for? Is that you were told the city bought it?
Yeah, the Nature Stone building, yes, we did purchase that. It was an opportunity that came along that we couldn't pass up. I had been after the owners of that building for like 20 years to give us the building, and told them we want that building. Being it's adjacent to our Commons Park, it's a great place. It became available. We had to jump on it, because if we hesitated it wouldn't be there, or might go in disrepair. It's a 100-year-old building, very significant building in our town, you know, back when it was started out as a dealership. So, we don't have specific ideas, but we're working on those now.
I think there's a kitchen in it, isn't there?
Yes,
Because, you know, people say if you have this bike trail coming down, there's not a lot of businesses, and you wonder if you could kind of develop that as a mall, a little shop. You know, I
Yeah.
don't know what it looks like inside.
yeah, it's very nice inside. Nature's
It's more
Stone
of a
took good care of it.
residential style kitchen though, which
Right.
limits its use.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, it can't be used commercial, because you have to be installed with the fire suppression system and all this stuff. But we've thought of things like maybe a restaurant or a cafe to go in there, just because the location is perfect. And the nice thing in that building, all the interior walls are not support walls. Because when it was built as a car dealership, that was a whole open building. There may be some holes here and there, but I don't know. We'll need to get an engineer to tell us for sure. But those can be moved or changed. It could be developed, we could put a little theater in there. We've been kicking around a lot of different things. Like with the hospital, we're not just gonna jump in and go, boom, here's what we're doing. It's an opportunity we had, and we didn't wanna let it get away.
Would you be willing to like talk to some of the business people in the town? They don't seem to, they worry about what's going on, but nobody really comes down like a month, every couple of months and says, you know, we'll meet at this cafe and talk about it. Because they don't have their community group anymore, they used to have, it used to manage
Yeah.
businesses. And I think the morale would be, I mean, wanting to be a part of things and maybe, you know.
Yeah,
because a lot of
we-
them don't live in Bedford, you know, and then they have these weird landlords that are out of town that don't really help too much.
Yeah, that's a bit of a problem
So
too.
it's- Yeah, it is, but they don't know if you know all the time.
Mhm.
They do.
Yeah. Well, when we jump into that building, we'll of course have open meetings and to talk about it and get the public together and get the downtown businesses, their input in it and all the stuff. We just got it, I don't even know if it legally changed yet. So we haven't done anything concrete yet, but we're gonna do something.
Some of them are, you know, kind of retiring, and so I just think it would be good to be proactive and get.
Right, and that's what we're trying to do, to be proactive, like you said, to get that when we had the opportunity, because if we waited, it wouldn't be there. Thank you. Yes?
I live on Shawnee Lane, and there are 3 properties in our neighborhood. One on Santon Circle, one directly across from me, and one on Button Road. And they've been empty. And the city fortunately cuts the grass across the street from me. Even last spring, before the little tickets went out, I went over there and cut the grass because it was getting a little long. And, but the other 2, one is 35 Santon Circle. It actually now has broken windows. It's empty. I've never noticed that there's ever a tag about cutting grass. I've never noticed the city cutting it. And the one, 501 Button Road, it actually has the shutters like hanging off of the house. And it's obviously empty.
So I'm not sure on the the Shawnee one, let me check, but I know the other 2, they were issued formal citations. Actually, if you check the court docket today, the owner of 35 Satin had his first court hearing. The prosecutor sat down with his attorney to try to get those addressed. So those current state is not by lack of effort. We've been after those property owners for months and months. Citation, the Satin one was a little challenging. We have to give credit to Chief Stask and the Detective Bureau. We were able to locate the owner because it was in an LLC. We served the owner and he was in court today. So we're working to address those. I
Because
have to check the Shawnee one, I believe the Button, I know the Button and the Satin one have been cited, I have to check that Shawnee
the
address.
Shawnee one is, I knew the person that had originally bought it, and then it changed hands.
Do you know what the address is? I think it's
Yes.
on the bend, right?
It's 608. 608, it's right across the street from me.
Okay, I'll double check, but I
Yeah.
think we have orders on that.
Because the one on Santon Circle, it's one of those that was damaged by the tornado, and it has a huge tree in the back, and you can see all these branches hanging, and I feel bad for the neighbors. I know Andy Mezak was, next door to that one, and so I was just curious, because that's,
Yeah.
that they just haven't been touched. And as I say, once you start seeing broken windows, then you're like, uh-oh, you get
Yeah,
scared.
that's bad news. Yeah, and to dealing with these vacant properties, I say, the city, we have to play by the rules
I understand.
and go through this step.
Mhm.
The people that don't care, don't play by the rules. I had one in my neighborhood for years. We were after him, and as soon as we get him to take the guy to court, he would sell his house to an LLC, which was himself. And then we had to start all over because it's technically a new owner. Go again, goes to court, it's another LLC, and this went on for years, and it's,
I know,
like I
it's
said, we gotta
crazy.
play by the rules, and
Yeah, because these are all houses that, I mean, they're not new houses, but
No, but
they
they're
were
all-
built in the late 60s.
they're all
like
nice
my
houses
house.
up there, yeah.
And you would
Yeah.
think any flipper would jump at the chance, because those houses in the neighborhood now are going like in the low twos, and I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
they're
shocked.
much more valuable today, yeah.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
check that,
Yeah.
Shawnee.
All right, thank you very much.
Somebody else, before we get back to your second
Yeah,
question.
okay.
I just have a couple locations I was interested in. First of all, if they're being used on that, or are going. And the one that comes up is, the cigar place on Broadway.
Do I put Allen law office?
Yeah, all right, that place, the new location, because I heard last time that they were backing out, or they were reducing, use of people, I don't know, something like that.
Go ahead, if you got a number.
And then the one other is that area of Meadowbrooks, which is, I understand, that he pointed out one time, the owner put a whole bunch of different contracts in there, so you weren't able to untangle it and use it. By Northfield, then,
Yeah, I could touch on those. So real quickly, the one you're referencing, Bendon, that's actually Zelia.
yeah.
So what you're referencing is Zelia actually sold everything, patents, the facility, to Hikma. Hikma was the structure that was already there in the rear, the tall glass building. Hikma was present at, I think they might have had 40 employees, 60 employees. They were solely research and development. That is a publicly traded company. They had purchased Zelia and all of their patents. They intend to be there. Zelia got out of the market.
All
So-
are US locations.
Yeah, all US locations out of the market. So we've met with Hikma. Hikma is going to ramp up. I believe ultimately they'll be larger than what Zelia was, which is a good thing. I also want to point out, the city had provided Zelia with a tax incentive of $30,000 a year. So over the last 3 years, they've gotten $90,000 from Bedford. There was a clause in there, and we actually went after and executed that clause. And giving credit to the law director and Jennifer Holland, Zelia did communicate with us, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, that they intend to reimburse the city 100% for those tax incentives. So we'll be getting those dollars back, which is a good thing. That was income tax incentives. But Hikma, they're moving forward. We've already seen a slow uptick in their employment in the R&D, but ultimately it'll be the whole facility. They actually owned everything originally. They purchased it from Boehringer Ingelheim. They only wanted the R&D. They sold everything to Zelia. Zelia bought everything for $20 million in 2016, 2016 maybe. Zelia has since they're out, we sold it for much more than $20 million, and Hikma bought everything. So they intend to manufacture at that site. You had referenced the Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook, what you're referring to is the CCNRs, and those are the covenants and restrictions for all of the property. I could probably talk for 2 hours on that if you want to talk afterwards, but there's very, very detailed restrictions on signage, roadway, grass, everything. I could tell you, if you know those little brick archways? Yeah. On the four corners? I'll say it, I don't care. There was a businessman that said, I need that sign, that little archway down, we'll pay you $100 grand. Absolutely not. They're gonna stay. So it can be a challenge to deal with an individual of that. Yeah, so that's just one example of the restrictions at the space.
And then the cigar place.
The cigar space, yeah, it is, you know, they pulled permits initially, they did some initial work there. I will say the permits are only good for 12 months. The 12-month period ended in February. We had rescinded the permits shortly after that. So they can't do any additional work. It's owned by a company out of Bedford Heights. They're pretty current on their taxes, but we're trying to address some of the exterior issues with it. I could talk to you a little bit more about that afterwards. Yeah.
And then one last location, that spot next to the post office box on that triangle there.
The land?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Hergenroder owns that land? Dr. Hergenroder? He was a doctor that was...
He's an orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
The city, 10 years ago, we inquired if he wanted to gift it to the city. We were gonna look to put some additional parking there before we got the grant application to extend the parking, or the grant award next door.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't want to gift us any of the land. We have had conversations with him. We've provided him with a number of ongoing projects in the immediate area, the commons. We provided him with the TLCI study. We've connected him with the Metro Park, so he's familiar with what they're going to do at Viaduct Park, because he has an interest in doing something there, but he wants it to complement the downtown. So we're not going to, you know, we told him we're here to help him, but I don't think he needs the money, so he's not actively looking to sell it. He may have gotten it through a tax foreclosure, I think, years ago, wasn't it?
He bought it dirt cheap, yeah.
Yeah, I think he acquired it through like a tax foreclosure, so.
Like 10 or 15,000.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I want to say it's almost 4 acres.
Yeah.
So it's a decent sized
Oh,
piece.
yeah, it's a favorite for dogs. I mean, I think you can listen to charge dogs to walk there, on that.
We talked
You know,
to
one
customers.
last question too.
Well, you had your questions.
Oh, no, this is a good one though, this is an easy one.
It was one at a time.
Okay. Yeah,
One at a time, because I told her she had to wait. Is there another question here? If not, you were next.
Yeah, it was just, actually, a two-part, it's about the businesses in downtown area. If there's any way to regulate what kind of businesses actually go into those, and if you have anything that's coming in that we can know about or not. And did I see new black metal benches all along downtown Bedford? Benches, have they been put in or something?
The
I mean, I just
benches
noticed-
have been there. We redid them, I believe last year, painted them and cleaned them all up.
Oh, I don't know why I just now noticed
No.
that, but.
As far as the businesses that go in there,
Yeah.
there's certain zoning, and if they meet that zoning, and being in the historic district, it's a little more restrictive. So we do have greater control what goes in, so.
There's nothing on the horizon coming in?
So one of the other things that I will add to that is, we were selected by Cleveland State, their College of Urban Affairs, thank you, Jen. Urban Affairs grad students they select one project every year for their capstone project. And we had presented the historic district, downtown Bedford, as well as kind of the University Hospital property as their focus. And they awarded us that project, so those grad students and their professors have been out in town. They did a walkthrough, they've presented to Jen, they've presented to myself, they've had, we've attended the classes, they had a presenter from historic preservation present, and they're looking at zoning, they're looking at historic preservation guidelines, they're looking at ways to incentivize small business in 2025, which could be a challenge. They're viewing this project as kind of a model that can be shared with the other entering suburbs in Northeast Ohio. So for them to pick Bedford was cool, right? You know, and it also puts other eyes on what can we maybe do better as far as zoning, as far as incentives, or different uses of property. It is one of the initial conversations, and just to go back real quickly, while we had not closed on that Nature Stone building, there's inspections and all that requirements that we want to make sure are done, so we know and we have confidence. We had posed that question to the professor, as well as, I think it was executive director with historic preservation of spaces in town. And, you know, they had shared, they said if there's an ability to secure any historic building, a building that's 100 years old, and then obviously they're very involved with what we're doing on the commons. Far too often she's seen it, properties get acquired, individuals that don't maintain it. It ends up going by the wayside, and now you have an eyesore right there in the heart of town. And, you know, we view it as we can either sit back and hope someone puts something in there that is nice and complements the square, or we can get after it, right, and try to make something happen. And I think we have some responsibility to maintaining the integrity of our downtown and the commons, and that's kind of why we went after that. So the Cleveland State piece is hopefully, back to your initial question, hopefully this helps. Hopefully it helps.
I think you were at the library one time when
Yes.
they were doing a survey and stuff, but I mean, I see, you know, you see these trendy little towns like Ohio City and some other areas where they have these coffee shops, and all these, you know, young people are just loving going there, and we have the atmosphere in Bedford, but I think a lot of times the businesses that they don't, you know, like the atmosphere of what the downtown looks like, and then the businesses that come in there don't coordinate, you know, I mean, and I don't know why we can't get, you know.
Well, it's not for lack of trying,
Well,
I can tell you.
I'll say, now that we have, or will hopefully have, our hands on that property, after it's set on the market for almost a year plus,
Yeah, it was almost a year and a half, and there
with
was,
no interest, that's why Mike and I had conversation about how do we save that building, and with our ability to own it and market it to who we think would be very much a user like you're describing. You know, BBG is my example. It takes a couple really good businesses to move in and make an investment.
And I don't know if, I mean, this is past the point, but like that dollar store just does not fit in the whole downtown Bedford thing, and it's a mess. And I
It
don't,
doesn't,
you
but
know.
it meets the zoning.
I mean, are we only doing that because of the money that it brings in? But I mean, it's a mess.
We couldn't stop it,
Oh.
yeah, there's certain things
because
like,
it meets the zoning and all the other criteria.
and I'm not, and by no means.
We don't like it.
And I wouldn't read into any of this, but for instance, it meets the zoning, it's retail. You have an old historic Baptist church, and this didn't happen, but if we sat and did nothing, right? Maybe a church bought Nature Stone and wanted to make it a church. Would everybody's like, do we think that's the best use for the square? We couldn't stop it. It fits the zoning. Got a church across the square. So, not inactive, but that's why I think we need to look at how do we, you know, and that's not why we acquired it, right? There's other, you know, we've had great discussions with EDCI, which is an economic development organization for small businesses, to maybe create a space there and a hub for small businesses to start out at. We had great conversation. One of these students, the grad students that is in the Cleveland State, is a staff member for the West Side Market. And she came and she's like, listen, we have vendors, they would die for an opportunity for another space, especially with some of the challenges that the market's going through. You know, let's talk. So we're having these discussions of, you know, what can we do? I'm not saying we're gonna turn that into a market, it's not, but,
No, but it just.
you know, we're trying to, yeah,
But you can't say no to like that dollar store, you couldn't say
it
no.
was retail.
If we could say no, it wouldn't be there.
I mean, or even if they had to make the sign match the exterior of the store district, you know, or something.
I know.
And,
I think originally they were gonna have a big yellow sign, black letters. Yeah, it was changed a little bit. It wasn't, it's not nice, but it's not as gaudy as the other sign they wanted. You know, once you meet all the requirements, it goes back to when Walmart moved in up on Rockside Northfield. We couldn't stop them because they met every criteria, and the things we asked them to do, they went and did them. So that's where we get our hands tied sometimes. And, you know, like I say, it's not for lack of effort to try to get something better, and if we could, we would. Yes?
I know this isn't Bedford, but I have a quick question. So the cute little ice cream place that sits down at the bottom of Dunham Road Hill in Walton Hills, my understanding from a lawyer a few years ago that property or that building itself was on a 6-year lease through the park system. Do you happen to know, because they closed March the 1st, and I was like,
Yeah,
why?
they did close, partially because their lease was up, and I think one of the owners had some health problems too that went into it. Because it was gonna go down there and see about them moving here
So
somewhere.
the fact that lease is up, that means that can
It's
anybody
closed.
else get in there? That nobody can go back into there at
Oh,
all?
that's up to the Metro Parks. I suppose somebody could if they wanted to put another ice cream thing, because it was a nice little place down
It
there.
was great.
Yeah.
I love going down
And
there.
I wanted to get them up here, but then, for whatever reasons, they just,
Maybe Nature Stone could be
we're open to, we're always open to ideas. And, you know, the hospital property, the Nature Stone building, whatever, we're open to ideas. And you can contact any of us, any of the council, all these people sitting up here. If you say, hey, we look at that stuff, we go there and try it. And sometimes it works, most time it doesn't. And there's also 3,000 other cities trying to get that same business in their town. So the competition is crazy. Okay, Bob.
Oh, sorry, I fell asleep there. The location that you're talking about, that doesn't belong to us, is that the one that belongs to Board of Education? You spoke of a spot that you thought was ours, and
That was on
Yes,
Interstate.
At Interstate
Cosgrove
Park,
Park.
currently Cosgrove Park.
I don't know about that.
It's off of
Yes,
Northfield.
thank you, right off Justin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There were 2 small parcels, there used to be tennis courts there, you know, decades ago. And those courts were removed and now it's grass and we maintain it. But we're looking at that, you know, all that space, could something else be put there? We don't know, but before we even have those discussions, kinda gotta, we have to own it, right? Like if we're gonna do fencing or.
One last thing, only, when you were showing the display, I saw the train station, is there something else back there too, a shelter or something?
Another large pavilion style, that's gonna kind of the design mimic, open, that's gonna mimic, or the design of the train depot, and then there's swing structures there, large stones.
Adult swings.
Yeah,
Not-
Yeah,
It's not gonna be a kid's park.
it's not like
Not
a
gonna be a
kiddie
kid's
playground.
Oh, okay.
Kids can go there, but it's adults. We got a lot of stuff for kids around.
Kids are adults now, so I don't worry about it.
You got a question?
I I don't have a question.
There's a new comment over
Go
here.
ahead. I have a
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to know who do I bring these circumstances to about my property? There was some things done without my permission, and they were done by me trying to be peaceful, but these expectations were not my expectations. And someone going on my property without my permission, that's a great thing as far as I'm concerned. For them doing what they done to my property, I like to talk about how can I best address this with, in the proper manner.
Where do you live, sir?
117 Green Cross.
Okay, are you near the culvert project?
Yes.
Okay.
And where I live, I couldn't even get my transportation to come down there and get me.
Right, we spoke on the phone.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think as far as like the restoration work, the tree lawn work, the restoration that's gonna take place, they're gonna be, we still have restoration work to be done with the contractor, but the culvert itself was replaced.
But I gave nobody permission to cut anything on my property.
Okay, we can take a look at it if there's,
I'd like to bring this to someone's attention so we have the better understanding of why we do something without me authorizing.
Yeah, well,
okay.
that we can look into.
Yeah.
And if the police chief or the building and the service director, we got the guys here to set something up and come over and take a look at what's going on.
Yeah, it was so bad, I couldn't go to the doctor from the 15th of December until 3 weeks ago.
Well, I think though when we spoke, I think we agreed, I think that was an issue your driver didn't know how, he wasn't following the detour.
No.
And you acknowledged that he didn't.
I called the excavator, I called his office, and the secretary told me, we are excavating people. I said, what about me? I'm gonna go see my doctor. I can't even get to my doctor.
I'll look at we'll take a look at the property as far as damage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to hang around after, we can get your information.
All right.
Okay. Oh, wait, she was next.
I have a comment. This fall, I had interaction with Mr. Francis and the service department and with the fire department. Some issues with my sewer line and talking about erosion on my property. Mr. Francis gave me a lot of his time. I was very appreciative. And then I was bit by a yellow jacket, and up until last October was never allergic to bees. And I had an issue and I called the squad, and they came right away and transported me to Marymount, and it's just amazing that they can give you a shot and you don't even feel it as you're pumping down West Glendale. So I just wanted to say thank you. And I made cookies. I'm sorry, Sean, I should have brought you cookies.
Kind of low.
Yeah.
I like it, always good. I know one back when I was on the department, somebody came in with cookies, they were.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys know, the whole school thing, the levy passed to do all that. Has that shown up yet on our taxes?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it already came up, so, yeah, there should not be another bump.
Tearing them down and everything. Do you know when that's gonna start?
Yeah, they're gonna break ground, I think they're supposed to break ground in May up for the junior high school, where the old Chanel property. May 10th? Okay.
Assessment.
Yeah, I have a question.
Timing is everything, and their timing
Oh my
was.
gosh.
It's horrible.
Yes.
You know that 411 lounge on Rockside North? At 4 o'clock.
They might have had a private party there.
Palm Sunday? They had a private party, all right. Some of the outfits. Yeah, 'cause it was like.
Yeah, and the other time you go by, there's nobody there.
There's nobody there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
But yesterday, it was packed. Huh?
I got one more quick question. Was, before Lakeshore moved, did they have like an overflow of employees that were parking in the parking lot?
So that,
Is that what happened?
yeah,
That's
that's
okay.
property, so that property's owned by the city, that inside corner. So they had approached us. They approached the city. One of our concerns is if they didn't construct that building, they would have had to move out of Bedford. There just wasn't a building that was available that fit what they needed, and they were growing so fast. They had nowhere their employees could park. So we actually kicked around, Sean and Clint and Jen were like, well, that's our property. If you guys want to lay gravel down there, we'll let you temporarily. We didn't want to stop someone from hiring and growing. And then it worked out where we were able to, Jen connected them with a developer, and then they built that space. But that corner is owned by the city, and it goes into the woods. I will say that one other piece, especially the wooded area, we're not, I don't wanna, that space that we're looking at for our master plan, right? What's the best use for that? We own it, we acquired it through a tax foreclosure, or it didn't cost us anything. Just like across the street, we gifted that property to the Metro Park so they could further develop viaduct. But once that's, we gotta look at the best use for that.
I was just wondering, because I'm thinking, my God, why is it always so busy over by the park anymore? And then all of a sudden it was like back to normal because Lakeshore is empty. Was curiosity.
Well, that's a good news thing with Lakeshore, because they needed to build a new one, and they came to us, I don't know, a couple of years ago and said, they want to get approved for a 100,000 square foot building, but they're only going to use 60,000. And then they plan on expanding. Well, they expanded so fast, they said, we're using the whole 100 right now. So hopefully maybe they'll put another addition on and hire even more people. I mean, fortunately for them and for us, their business just exploded. And it's a good thing.
It is, yes.
Yeah. And where they're at, it's a great location. And
okay, and there was no party down in the Viaduct Park, and I can go with my dogs down there now, because I was like a little leery, like, what's going on all the time over there?
yeah, because they were parking out in the park and everything else. So, yes.
Thank you.
Getting back to the schools, originally they said that Central and Carrollwood were going to be demolished. Is that still in their plan?
Yeah.
I think as far as I know, the Central's gonna come down, which, that's my school, I went there. My mom and dad went there, and my grandmother went there. Yeah. The original building burned down years and years ago. But, yeah, that was supposed to go down, all three of them, that and Glendale. Because the cost of inflation and everything that's hitting, they had to trim back a bit. It's all their decisions. They go to the school board and ask them why they did it.
But here's my concern
Okay.
over it. At one of the meetings I was at, I asked the superintendent, because I live in one of those neighborhoods, and it's a neighborhood school, or it was years ago. And I said, are you gonna just leave it empty, or, what are you gonna do with it? She said, well, we intend to take it down and never leave it empty. And the city, she was gonna talk to the mayor, and she had hopes that the mayor would purchase it.
No.
And I thought, well, come on, so she was feeding me a line, you know what I mean?
No, I would like to have that property
Yeah.
and take that storage place and move them over.
Get it out of
Because
there.
that point would be a great place for a medical office building.
It would be a nice place, a nice spot for.
UH could pay us back by building a nice building there.
Yeah.
But conversation, they will tear down the buildings they don't use.
They will. That's a promise, because I hate to see an empty building in a neighborhood, you know?
Yeah, no, they're,
What they should, the reason why they have, if, they have to take the buildings down, because if they don't take a building down, they have to make it available to a charter. There's certain laws about that. I don't know all of them, you can ask the school board, but if the school owns a building and it's not being used, they have to make it available for some other type of education service. So the intent is that they would take those down. They would take Carrollwood down, they would take Central, and the initial plan was to take Glendale down. As the mayor said, due to costs, they can't, or they've chosen to cut the pre-K, which was planned to be constructed on the Heskett site.
Right.
That's been cut from the budget, and then a new admin wing was scheduled to be built on the new middle school site.
Right.
That's been cut too. So the schools are looking for space for the pre-K and the admin. Where that may be, I have no idea. That would be their decision. I know they have kicked around out of those three buildings, right? Carrollwood, Central, and Glendale. Glendale probably would make the most sense for their needs. So that's why, as Councilman Smith said, that may change. But if they don't tear Glendale down, it's because the schools are going to use it in some fashion. I will say, any building that they're not going to use, they will take down. And we are not actively looking to buy that.
I didn't think that was true, but maybe she was just hoping that would happen.
charter schools cost our schools a lot of money. Tons of money.
But that's something too, I mean, those locations, we're talking about the two, two wards where two of those schools are in. That's something to really focus on and follow the school board meetings. Follow those decisions, because when those buildings ultimately come down, what is that space gonna be used for? Obviously, we're gonna engage them. Are they looking to sell, I mean, they're in residential primarily, especially Central. What does that look like? What is the zoning? Do we need to look at our zoning? There's a lot of discussions that need to be had. Do you want a housing development to go in there? Do you not? Do you want it to just be green space? These are things that everybody should focus on, because it's 3 large tracts of land in our town.
But here's the problem, that I don't know if you understand this or not. But if you go to a school, because, well, not that, no, I mean, you're not just an average citizen like us. You have some clout because you're the city manager. But if we, because we've done this, go to a school board meeting, and you have a question, you have to write it down before the meeting. They choose what questions they want to answer, but they don't answer the question at the meeting. They tell you, this is the question, and we'll get back to you. But then they never get back to anybody. I have a question that I asked, let's see, 2 months ago.
And you have not received a response?
Still have not received a response.
Well,
And the question was very simple to ask, I think. They had a Valentine's Day dance at Ellenwood, but it was put on by the school.
Yep.
And they had the catering 2 years in a row, came from catering companies outside of our district. And I asked the school board member, why is that happening? Since I've lived in this community 52 years, they use local businesses. They use the school for a long time, and then after that, we have people who have businesses in Bedford that cater.
And in the school
In
district
the
itself.
school
too,
district.
yeah.
And, I mean, even, you could even say Maple Heights Catering, because the people who own it live in Walton Hills. They have a couple people that cater in Oakwood, and we know who caters in Bedford here. Cernas does, the cafe does, Book the Cooks, they're Bedford graduates. And I said, why are we going to places in Parma to get the food, you know what I mean? And it came
answer you.
They don't answer at the meetings.
I'll ask them. We can ask, we don't control them. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I live on Henry Street, and I know you all were talking about street repairs and things, but there's a growing chuckhole right at the stop sign, just above where the guard sits to let in the morning for the children, that we need a cone or something there. There was one there, I think, one day, and I came home and it disappeared. I don't know where it is. That's something that's gonna be addressed really soon.
Yeah, they'll check it
We're out
out.
patching down, we'll take care of it.
Thank you. Yes.
What's the possibility of these schools that are sitting empty cannot be Christian schools? Has that ever been approached?
I don't know, that's not, we have nothing to do with the schools.
Yeah.
By law, we can't tell them anything. We talk to them regular. We just had a meeting, last week with all the higher ups at the admin building, and, we can only suggest. We have no, legal authority over the school.
And do they have the money that they need from our taxes to be able to do all these things? Because I heard something not too long ago saying they were still looking for some more money.
Well,
I don't know how true that was, but
I think they were open in a recent presentation where, I don't want to give a number, but I know it was over budget, the whole plan. When I'm talking about middle school, the new high school, the grade schools, it was over budget. I believe the reason was inflation and things like that. And that was, the result was they were cutting the pre-K piece out and cutting the admin out because they were not looking to increase the overall budget. So the only other option was to make cuts, and those are the two areas that they were looking to make cuts. I think there are some other, on a very small level, and they talked about it at the planning commission, even the new middle school, they've cut a lot of like landscaping, trees, some of those things were cut out of the plan. We had made a recommendation to them to look for grant funding. There's funding out there for tree canopies. So instead of having to budget for that, go after grant funds to maybe secure that, to still landscape it and make it look.
But didn't they come into this whole thing with a grant? Did that money get used?
No.
Well, they're getting money from the state, toward the schools. Yeah, when they made up all the plans, it was 2-3 years ago. These last 2-3 years are just, well, look at the price of homes even here in Bedford. I mean, there was $150,000 house, and now they're going for $300,000 in Bedford. We never had those kind of prices. It's good if you're selling, but if you go to buy something else, you gotta pay more, so it all averages out. But, yeah.
Councilman mentioned a good thing. There is coming up is the State of the Schools presentation for those interested in the Bedford City Schools. It is either on April 22nd or 23rd. I think it's the 23rd. State of the Schools, we're going to attend, I believe it's in the evening, 6 o'clock at night. May provide some information, answer questions. But we'll be there and we'll ask the questions.
You asked that question about,
Yeah, of course.
you're in the schools and you can't, and you're not gonna support the people who have to, because some of the businesses, some of the caterers live in the school districts, like
Yeah.
Brett lives in Bedford Heights, Bolsover. Lives in Walton Hills. Yep.
State of the Schools is Wednesday, the 23rd at 6 o'clock. I think it's gonna be at the high school, in the auditorium.
But they intend, as far as the middle school, that's gonna be the first one started, and the groundbreaking is scheduled for May 10th.
Stan, can I say one thing?
Yes.
She's talking about they wanted more, or thinking about more money. They're gonna be possibly a levy on the ballot come
An
November.
operating level?
That has nothing to do with the buildings.
Yeah, it's an operating level.
Right. operate, the bond issue is what we passed. That's for the buildings. This is to operate, to pay the teachers, the bus, cafeteria, and all kinds of work they need to pay.
They're laying off quite a few people.
They're trying to kill us.
Because they don't have the money to
That's
pay.
the bottom line.
They don't have money to pay.
So that might be on this ballot. So now you know what to look for if it comes on, come November.
And that's why it's good to go to these things, voice your opinion.
We can.
And again,
I know.
much as we wanna say stuff, and
So
we talk to
you go to a meeting there, even though you're the mayor, you should be able to ask a question. You're also a citizen, so you should like us.
I know, I pay taxes too.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe the problem is that none of them live in the city anymore.
Yeah.
They don't, other than the school board members. But,
Well, none of them live in Bedford.
no, they don't.
But, yeah, schools, our hands are tied with them, and we talk to them, we discuss things and say, hey, they make their own decisions.
We feel good because we come here and you listen. You get the feeling, no, they're not even listening.
Yeah. Well, and we do listen. And we do talk about these things. It's not just like, oh, okay, you said it, and we go and, oh, let's go down and have a beer and forget about it. No.
Because we know your wife, that's why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she'd give it to me.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, we make all our decisions based on what's best for the city, not what's best for me or for Mike, or for the councilman. It's what's best for the city. That's always been our conversation. Whenever Mike and I talk, and we do it a lot, it's what's for the city.
That shows.
Well, thank you. And that's, I'm not making it up. That's why we're here.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't say, well, if I vote for that, I'm not gonna get votes. Well,
No.
it doesn't matter. I'm gonna vote for it because it's the right thing to do, not because I think it's politically correct. No, we go what's for Bedford. Anybody else?
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I did that at an auction one time, I almost bought more than I thought I was gonna get.
Anybody else? We're getting close to 9 o'clock. We'd like to wrap it up by then to respect your time. But at this time, I'd like to ask Councilman Smith if he has a closing word to add, or?
Not really, just, thank you all for coming. As I said, anyone that lives in my ward, grab a card, talk to me. I usually, I walk every morning, basically, and when you were talking about that Shawnee, property, I see that property has been empty for a while. Most definitely, we are working on it, because, I talked to Mike about it, and we are working on that property. That other property, 35
Stanton,
Yeah,
and,
Stanton.
and then the other one on Button Road.
Yeah. we're working on it.
61?
608, or did you say?
I can't believe
No, that was.
35 and
501.
501.
501, yeah. But believe me, the city is working on that. It might take a while, as the mayor said.
You
we
know,
have to
I
go
don't,
through
like I
the
said,
steps.
I don't have a problem with mine across the street because it stays neat, and if it starts to get too long and I don't see the city, then I will cut it because it makes me crazy because I'm an old lady. But otherwise, I mean, it's fine. It could stay empty as long as it's neat and clean.
Exactly.
That part of it, because I watch it. You know, I look out the window every day in my living room and I look at it, and we have nice neighbors, and they kind of keep an eye on it. But the other two look terrible, just terrible. And so, and that's a shame because that's a nice neighborhood. I've been in that neighborhood 39 years now. And so I really like it there.
And it's one more thing I want to say, and I must say this. I'm glad that you all came out tonight to really ask the questions and not get on that internet and try to find out what's going on in the city. Because most likely, it's gonna be disinformation. Then you start calling around, and it's snowballs. So I'm just not you, but
Yeah,
there are some
no,
people.
I know, but that's the
but
worst
so-
thing to do.
Yeah,
Please,
please,
like whispering a
please.
secret over here and then
Right,
it's
right.
something different all the
But
way.
please
Yeah,
come,
absolutely.
and I'm glad you guys showed up. This is what this is for. You know, get the questions answered that you want to know about. And it's nothing better than get straight from the horse's mouth. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fluharty.
Glad to stand up.
I just want to say, when we got this hospital taken care of property, Mike and the mayor did a super job for 2.5 years to get this back to us, to be able to put what we want or we need in there. And they did a lot of work on that. People don't realize how much time in courts and with the lawyers and everything else. So this city is trying to get better and bigger and financially, and that's why we make moves. And that's why they were talking about the building down at Nature Stone and some of these other things. Without that, we need this extra property and extra revenue. So Chief here, Mike, can put some more patrolmen on. Because let's face it, we need more safety patrol. We need more police officers. And it's only because we keep building and getting things towards the future here. And the last thing I want to say is this is my last council meeting because I'm retiring at the end of the year. So I won't be around to see all this going on, but I will keep in touch. And like I said, I've lived in this town for 62 years. And when I got on council, I always did like these guys are saying, what we pass has to do with what is better for the city, not for us. It just, I used to be around here when things were 10 times better maybe. But we had a lot of things we used to do. Well, times have changed, and we have to change with the times. And it's a battle, it really is. And the things we add on, the things we do, is for one reason, is for better the community. So everybody can have a better way of living in this city. Because the city has always been good to everybody, if you've been here long enough. And it's gonna be tough for me to leave. But I just have to, because my wife, she's not well, and we have to move out. So the point of it is, it's just one of them things. So again, thanks for coming.
We didn't say you could leave. And with that, if there's nothing else, again, thank you for being here. Some great questions tonight. Good dialogue.